The December wind whipped through the quiet streets of a small English town in Yorkshire, where the holiday lights blinked warmly against the grey sky. Eleanor Thompson, a retired schoolteacher in her 60s with soft silver curls and eyes that held decades of stories, sipped her morning tea by the frosted window. Her days were quiet now, peaceful even, until she noticed him. Every morning at precisely 8:30, he'd sit on the same bench across the road from her flat. A man in his late 20s, tall and thin, with shaggy hair tucked under a worn hoodie and a coat far too thin for the bitter cold. He never begged. He never asked for anything. He just sat there, still as stone, his gaze distant, locked somewhere between memory and grief. Eleanor tried not to pry. But something about him gnawed at her heart, the way his shoulders hunched inward, as if carrying something unbearably heavy. He never spoke a word, not to passers-by, not even when a dog barked at his feet. Yet in those eyes, deep, hollow, aching, she saw a storm. One morning, she made 2 cups of tea instead of 1. She bundled up in her wool coat, crossed the road, and gently handed him the steaming cup. He didn't say anything. Just stared. But after a long pause, he took it with trembling hands. "I'm Eleanor," she said softly. Still, no reply. Just a tiny nod. But she saw it, the flicker of gratitude buried beneath the pain. She returned the next day. And the next. Sometimes she brought sandwiches. Sometimes a blanket. She never asked questions, never pushed. Just sat beside him in quiet companionship, offering kindness without expectation. It was on the 11th day that he finally looked her in the eye. His lips parted, as if he might speak, but no sound came. Instead, tears welled and spilled silently down his cheeks. "I'm sorry," he mouthed, barely a whisper. "You don't need to be sorry," she said, her voice catching. He reached into his coat and pulled out a crumpled photograph. Faded at the edges. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, sat smiling on a swing set. Standing behind him was the man, younger, happier, whole. "My son," he choked, his voice breaking like glass. "Charlie." Eleanor's heart clenched. She waited. "He died, last Christmas. Hit by a drunk driver. I was supposed to pick him up from school. I was 5 minutes late." His words came out in broken gasps, as if each one tore him open. "I lost everything. My wife left. I lost my job. I couldn't live in that house anymore. So I left. I stopped talking. What was the point?" Eleanor listened. Not with judgment. Not with pity. But with the steady presence of someone who understood what it meant to carry loss. "You loved him," she said simply. "More than anything. Then don't let the silence be the only thing left of him." For a moment, the air held a sacred stillness. As if the entire street paused to let the words sink in. Over the next few weeks, she helped him piece together a life. She called him Daniel. He hadn't spoken that name aloud in months. She contacted a local shelter, then a grief counselor. When he couldn't face the paperwork, she sat with him and helped. When he fell silent again, she reminded him, quietly, gently, that healing wasn't a straight line. On Christmas Eve, Eleanor found a knock on her door. It was Daniel, clean-shaven, with a new coat and a nervous smile. "I got a job," he said. "Part-time, at the library. They said I can help in the children's section." Her eyes welled. "And I'm starting a support group. For parents who've lost children. We're calling it Charlie's Bench. After the place you found me." Eleanor hugged him tightly, tears of joy and sorrow mingling in the embrace. "You saved me," he whispered. "You saw me, when I didn't want to be seen." She pulled back, smiling through her tears. "No, Daniel. I just reminded you that you're still here. And that you're not alone. Outside, the snow began to fall, soft, slow, like the world exhaling. And across the road, on a bench dusted in white, a small plaque had been freshly bolted in place. In memory of Charlie, and for those learning to live again. Daniel still visited the bench every now and then. Not to mourn, but to remember. And every time someone sat beside him, lost and silent as he once was, he'd offer a warm cup of tea, and the kindness that once saved his life.